Senate will come back to order. We're going to remain on the rules calendar. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Resolution 282?
House Resolution 282 by Representative Gunter of the 8th and others, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Miss Sydney Grace Jones and dedicating an intersection in her memory and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Transportation recommends that this resolution do pass. Respectfully submitted, Senator Ginn of the 47th, Chairman. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the Majority Whip to present House Resolution 282.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Resolution 282 is a road naming resolution honoring the life and memory of Miss Sydney Grace Jones, who passed away tragically on January the 22nd. She had an accident on January the 12th up in Union and Fannin counties on Highway 15. She was born on May 3rd, 2001 in Blue Ridge. Young lady, had a bright future and a bright life, had a wonderful family, and is loved by many, and will be remembered for all the great things she did in her 20 years of life. So with this, Mr. President, I will yield the well for any questions and ask for your favorable consideration.
You have no questions. Any other senator wish to speak for or against House Resolution 282? The chair sees none. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none and the main question is ordered. Questions on the adoption of the resolution. All those in favor vote yea, opposed nay. The Secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? A few more coming in. Couple more? Okay. We'll keep it open. Two more? Okay. Have all senators voted? Got a thumbs up in the hallway. Mr. Secretary, will you please close the machine? On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 46 and nays are 0. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption of House Bill 68?
House Bill 68 by Representative Clark of the 147th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 43-14-15 of the OCGA relating to certain military certifications that entitle persons to obtain certain professional licenses so as to extend the time a member of the military has to qualify for the issuance of a license or certification as an electrical contractor, plumber, conditioned air contractor, and for other purposes. The Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security recommends that this bill do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Chairman. The Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security offers the following substitute to House Bill 68, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 43 of the OCGA relating to general provisions of professions and businesses so as to provide for individuals who move to the state and establish residency to obtain a license by endorsement and for other purposes. Senator Jackson of the 2nd and others offers the following Amendment 1 to amend the Senate Committee on Veterans, Military, and Homeland Security substitute to House Bill 68 by replacing lines 1 through 4 with the following. To amend Title 43 of the OCGA relating to professions and businesses so as to provide for individuals who move to the state and establish residency to obtain a license by endorsement to practice certain professions and occupations in this state and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 14th to present House Bill 68.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have seen this bill before. We passed it out of this chamber earlier this year. It was Senate Bill 45, and it simply just provides professional license boards to issue licenses by endorsements to all individuals that satisfy the following requirements. Again, you passed it out of here. We sent it over to the Senate. Mine got held up, so this bill we've already passed out of here. There is a friendly amendment, as I addressed in an earlier bill, that mistaken. That amendment came to me late. It would be my recommendation that they address that in a separate piece of legislation, but not attach it to here. With that, Mr. President, I yield well and ask favorable consideration.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 2nd to speak to Amendment Number 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a workforce data questionnaire amendment. As the gentleman from the 14th stated, this is a friendly amendment. It does not jeopardize this bill or do anything to damage the current bill. Currently, we have over 160,000 nurses in Georgia. When applying for a nurse license in Georgia, there's currently 8 categories of workforce data questions that are included during the nurse licensing process on the online application. However, the workforce questions are optional for the applicant to answer. So the percentage is extremely small to those who answer the questions. There is no financial data collected, and the individual name, the individual's street address is not identified in the data released by the Georgia Board of Healthcare Workforce. The nursing board collect the workforce data and then is sent it to the Board of Healthcare Workforce for them to analyze the report. Some of the questions that's on this data is where they work, what type of nursing practices they work in, like a hospital, nursing home, what type of nursing education, whether they're RN, LPN, the nursing positions, either they're employed, self-employed, or they work for an organization. The demographics, their age, their sex, their race. There's no financial data. There's nothing about marital status included. This is a friendly mech, but it really lets us know where the nurses live and what they do. It helps the Workforce Development Authority find out where they need, where the shortages are, and where they need to place the critical nurse workforce. I urge you to support this amendment. It's good for Georgia. It's good for our healthcare workforce. So please, I urge you to support. Thank you. If there are any questions, I yield.
You have a question. The chair recognizes the senator from the 14th for a question.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Yield?
Yes, sir, I do, sir.
Senator, isn't it true that this amendment was brought to us together out in the hallway earlier today?
Yes, sir. This is much like your original bill, this was a bill that got bogged down in this process, I would like to say. But this was a separate bill. But what we're trying to do is find something germane that really attacks, that really looks at our workforce to make sure that we can really narrow down and put good nurses to work in critical areas in Georgia.
Senator, further yield?
Yes, sir, I do, sir.
So, Senator, isn't it true we both favor our nurses and all of the individuals that have taken us through COVID, but isn't it true that this amendment was told to us that it was coming to us at the recommendation of the Attorney General's office?
The gentleman knows of which he speaks, but I'm glad you mentioned that. Because of COVID, we have critical shortages in nurses. And because of COVID, we don't know where our shortages really are. To fight COVID, we need to put our nurses on the front line, but we need to tell them where to go. But right now, without this legislation, without this amendment, our workforce don't know where to put our nurses in critical areas in our great state.
Senator, further yield?
Yes, sir, for my friend
So
of the 14th.
Thank you. So isn't it true that when I contacted the Attorney General's office, they said they did not make that recommendation and that they don't make those kinds of recommendations? It's only an advisement if someone wants to ask that if they wanted to accomplish something, this might be how they do it. But it is not on the advice of the Attorney General. Is that not true?
Senator of the 14th, I believe the Attorney's comments were they gave good advice of how to do it. And then we exercised, and this amendment exercised the advice from the Attorney General's office.
Well, Senator, further yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. So I think we probably disagree, Senator, that advice coming to us is different than a recommendation. And it wasn't recommended from the Attorney General, but maybe advice in your interpretation of how if they want to accomplish something. But my question for you, Senator, is this, that as you said, bills get bogged down. And many times they get bogged down because we add things at the last minute. I think this chamber always considers whether we do that. This legislation is good for the state of Georgia as we work through economic development, try and continue to grow, and we have people moving in. That's what this bill really does. And so it would be my recommendation, Senator, that we don't get bogged down, as you said. So my question to you is, do you believe this is going to bog it down?
No, sir. No, sir. I believe when we pass this bill and this amendment, we will agree it on the House, and Georgia will prosper. We have no idea where nurse practitioners work in this state. But when we pass this amendment, we will have some idea of where to go, where nurse practitioners should go, where LPNs should go, whether they should go into our hospitals, where they should go into the nursing homes, where they should be on the front lines, whether that should even be in CVSs. Should CVSs put more critical nurse stations in rural Georgia? This is about helping rural Georgia. This is about helping urban Georgia. This is just good for America.
Senator, one final question, if you'd yield.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is captured during the board process, correct?
Yes, sir. The board has that right.
Okay, so the board would have the right to capture this information as they apply. Could you explain to this body how capturing that information then is going to be interpreted and determine how you're going to place people when we're just now capturing the information? And is that similar to the other medical professions?
Yes, sir. I'm glad you asked that question. We already do this for the dental board. This same process we do it for the dental board. And let me tell you how it works for dentists. It lets our dental schools know how many students they need as a freshman to attack the critical shortage areas of dentists across the state. It lets us know, do we have to do loan repayment sites in rural Georgia to bring dentists in rural Georgia? It lets the Augusta University, the Medical College of know. It lets the dental board know maybe we need to recruit more dentists from out of the military so that we can satisfy these crucial shortage areas. So we already do it in the state. We just don't do it for the nurses. So if it's good for the dentists, if it's good for physicians, my friends, I'm telling you, it's good for the nurses.
You have more questions. Do you yield?
I do, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 20th with a question.
Senator Jackson, isn't it true that this is, oh, sorry about that.
Second.
He's
Second.
from the senator from the
Senator
second.
from the second. Isn't it true that I appreciate you bringing this amendment?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And isn't it true that the Board of Nursing is already collecting some of this data if the application is made online, but they're not collecting it if it's made otherwise?
Yes, sir. It is, sir.
And isn't it true that we fund an organization called AHEC to try to help us with our healthcare workforce?
The gentleman knows of which he speaks.
And isn't it true that this information would be very valuable to AHEC as they try to fulfill their mission to provide healthcare workforce throughout the whole state?
The gentleman knows of which he speaks. Yes, sir.
Would you further yield?
Yes, sir, I do.
Isn't this true that this amendment does not hurt the underlying bill in any way, and in fact provides an opportunity for especially rural Georgia to put resources where they're needed to develop workforce as far as our colleges, our technical colleges, and our universities?
And yes, sir, Senator. In fact, it enhances bill. It lets Georgia know about our critical shortage area in healthcare, and it's just good for the people of this great state because we have, especially in rural Georgia, we have such a we have problems identifying where we need quality healthcare professionals, and this helps us a little bit toward that goal.
Thank you, Senator.
Yes, sir.
Do you continue to yield?
No, Mr. President, we all kind of understand where we are and where we need to go. I urge my colleagues to vote up, vote green for this amendment, and vote green for this bill. I yield a well.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the measure or the amendment? The chair sees none. All right, we'll take up amendment number 1. The question is on the adoption of amendment number 1 by the senator from the second. Is there objection? The chair hears none, and amendment number 1 is adopted. The question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection to adoption of the committee substitute as amended? Chair hears none, and the committee substitute as amended is adopted. Is there objection to agreeing to the report of the committee which is favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Is there objection to the main question being ordered? The chair hears none, and the main question is ordered. Questions on the passage of the bill by substitute. All those in favor vote yea. Opposed, nay. The secretary will unlock the machine. Have all senators voted? Have all senators voted? Mr. Secretary, please close the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed by substitute. Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate agree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 202.
Mr. Secretary, can you please read the caption?
Senate Bill 202 by Senators Burns of the 23rd and others, A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to elections and primaries generally so as to provide that persons or entities that mail absentee ballot applications shall mail such applications only to eligible registered electors who have not already requested, been issued, or voted an absentee ballot, to require certain comparisons, to remove improper names from the mail distribution list, to provide for sanctions for violations, and for other purposes. The House offers the following substitute to Senate Bill 202, a bill to be entitled an act to comprehensively revise elections and votings to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the OCGA relating to elections and primaries generally so as to revise a definition, to provide for the establishment of voter intimidation and illegal election activities hotline, to limit the ability of the State Election Board and the Secretary of State to enter into certain consent agreements, settlements, and consent orders, to provide that the Secretary of State shall be non-voting ex officio member of the State Election Board, to provide for the appointment, confirmation, term, and removal of the chairperson of the State Election Board, to revise provisions relating to a quorum of such board, to require the Secretary of State to support and assist the State Election Board, to provide for the appointment of temporary and permanent replacement superintendents, to provide for procedures, to provide for performance reviews of local election officials requested by the State Election Board or local governing authorities, to provide for a definition, to provide for appointment and duties of performance review boards, to provide for reports of performance review boards, to provide for promulgation of rules and regulations, to provide for additional requirements on the State Elections Board power to adopt emergency rules and regulations, to provide that no election superintendents or boards of registrars shall be accept private funding, and for other purposes. This completes the order, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 23rd to speak to his motion. For what purpose does the senator from the 6th rise?
Point of order in that, as the presiding officer of this body, it's your duty to enforce our rules. And with respect to this substitute, it violates at least two of the Senate rules, specifically in terms of germaneness. Not only is it about elections, but they've also added a provision that gives the governor a new appointment power with respect to certain judges. And then also there's a portion that talks about reapportionment and the decennial census. Obviously, those are two separate, different reasons with respect to they're not related to elections. So not only does it violate the germaneness rule in terms of the Senate rules, but it also violates the two subject matter rules in our rules as well.
Could you please approach the rostrum?
Absolutely.
Senate will come back to order. Chair would like to recognize the senator from the 6th for an additional point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Additional point of order deals with a fiscal note with respect to this bill. There is no fiscal note associated with it, and I know that there has been significant testimony over in the House in terms of the cost to localities and to the state, so I just want to make sure that's considered as well.
Senate will stand at ease for a few moments while we contemplate the questions raised by the senator from the 6th.